if you ever want to feel old and you're like my age, talk about how Warped Tour used to be back in the day with somebody that's just getting into that culture now. Man, will you feel old. I mean, I was telling her about how they used to have the band barbecues, and yeah, man, they used to have band barbecues, and you could meet every band you wanted to, like, everyone was there, and everyone was chilled out, and I remember Eminem was there back in the day before anyone knew who he was. Like, I was there for all this. And man, she's looking at me like I'm telling her about Woodstock in the 60s. It was, man, oh, it made me feel old. It was a cool conversation, but it made me feel old. So, and I told her about when I met Lou Dog, because Sublime has stood the test of time. A lot of kids are still into Sublime. And I got to meet Lou Dog right before he died. I think a year before he died. Sublime was already not happening anymore. I'm not that old, but Long Beach Sub All-Stars was still going, and they were still doing the Warped Tour. So I saw Long Beach at the Warped Tour. And Lou Dog was there, and this was afterwards at the barbecue when it was still kind of open and anyone could go. And Eric and Bud were there, and they were presumably under the influence of something. They were definitely, they saw us, and we were young. I was with my cousin, who's a huge Sublime fan. He had a Sublime t-shirt on. We were maybe, I don't know how old, we couldn't have been more than like 13 or maybe 14. And Lou Dog was there, and when we went back, and they were like, hey, man, and we took pictures with them, and then we got to pet Lou Dog, and that was a really big deal. That was really, really cool, and of course, shortly after, Lou Dog passed. He was a Dalmatian, he was a little older, and he passed away, so that was kind of like one of my more fun Warped Tour stories. I got to pet Lou Dog, so I was telling this girl about that, and then afterwards, I gave her my card, and I gave her this list of bands that I think she should check out. And some of them I'd assume she at least heard about, but she might not have, thought to check out. Like I put Bad Religion on that list. I put At the Drive-In on that list. And then I put Youth of Today, try to get her into some old school hardcore. Minor Threat I put on that list. Just made her a list of bands. And I texted a friend of mine, one of my friends growing up, who, we used to go to all those shows together. And he played in bands, and he used to tour as a drummer. He is now married with children. Yeah, I texted him because I had to tell him the story. I'm like, dude, you won't believe this. This is awesome. You're going to love this. I met this younger kid after the show. Usually, kids that age aren't at shows, but she told me I reminded her of the guitarist in her band. And then I told her about all this stuff, and he laughed, and he's like, oh, man, we're old. When did this happen? And I told her, I was like, well, I gave her a list of bands to check out, and his response was so great, because he was like, you know what, man, she's not going to care. He was like, she's going to be disappointed. And I was like, why do you say that? And he was like, we are too old, and we like too many bands that nobody cares about. Those weren't his exact words. I'm paraphrasing a little bit for it to be FCC friendly, but those were, and I love that. We are too old, and we like too many bands that nobody cares about. Because I feel like if there's an anthem that almost all of us at Radio Free Nashville have in common, it's that we are too old and we like too many bands that nobody cares about. Anybody over the age of 25 that really loves music, I think, encounters that problem. We are too old and we like too many bands that nobody cares about. That's going to be my next t-shirt. It won't be, actually, because that wouldn't sell at a comedy club. A lot of patrons at a club like that, they can't relate to something like that. They don't get that, Nick Hornby High Fidelity-esque type subculture commentary, if you will. They're not going to get on board with that. They'll be like, what does that mean? I'm not old. What do you mean I like bands nobody cares about? People love AC/DC. That would be their response. So those shirts would not sell. There'd be one person per show, if the audience was over 200 or 300, that would buy that shirt.